now because I'm doing a lot of landscape painting. And so these are going to help me to kind of think about my skies where I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's a little bit warm here, and then it moves to a little bit of green in the atmosphere, so I can kind of combine the blues within the sky colors. So there's more almost broken color within the sky. If I get these interspersing with one another, this green, pink, blue mix, it'd be really, it'll give me a unique sky versus just taking one full color and just shading it all in with value. You know, we want to understand the nuance of colors so that we can have the color bounce off one another. You know, so we get a little bit more of an interest to our painting rather than just the ease of filling an area in. We want to really think of the nuance and subtlety within what I think within a portrait, but also within landscape painting, I would imagine. I just started landscape painting. I've studied it a lot, but I haven't really painted a lot of them. So we have our Prussian blue here. I'm going to start in for some. I'm imagining it having a lot of tinting strength, if I remember correctly, and it does. Getting better at making my little rectangles here. This really mixes fully. And this has definitely still also some of those green undertones. But this has way more of an intense color mixture. Clean that up a little bit. Using a wet wipe here to clean my brush off in between. And we can definitely see the difference between this and this. Again, the different properties. Just a little bit more white here, just to make it a little bit more opaque. Prussian blue. It's kind of like a mixture of like a green and a warm together. And also really beautiful sky color. So let's talk about phthalo blue. And I think that phthalo has a very intense mixing. The intensity here, the purity of it, the chroma, really, really intense. Look how pure that color is, though. Whereas, really seeing what this is compared to the others, you can see that this has such a cleanness to the mix. This is a pretty clean, but still has a little bit of gray and is neutral a little bit. This is like very, very beautiful. I know my analogies. I love color. I apologize. I'm like, oh, this is neat. This is cool. I just love the purity of that color right there, and the purity of that color and the intensity. Versus some of these are very neutral still. This has the warm tones. You can really see the green tones under here with the phthalo blue. This is such a great exercise to really see the nuance between our mass tone of all these guys and the value. But then when we put them around the same value, what does each color represent? And what are their personalities when they're at the same value? Because their personalities, when they're straight out of the tube, are very different. The subtleties become a little more apparent when you add the titanium white to see them in the same value. Plus the amount that we've had to use to get a similar value for each one is different because of the intensity. Again, our phthalo and our Prussian, very intense. These guys, this one not as intense, our ultramarine blue and our cobalt blue, not as intense. And our cerulean blue, also not quite as intense as these two. So understanding the intensity of how much paint you need to put down to do a mixture is also important and valuable for you guys to learn. And when you do this exercise at home, I totally recommend that you do this because you'll learn the subtlety of mixing shades and tones, value tones for each one of these. I hope this gives you a better feel on the personality of each of these blues. And a big thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting these color studies. I couldn't do it without you. And hey, if you're feeling a little blue after this video, that's good. It means that the pigments are working. Don't forget to like and subscribe and scan the QR code on the screen for my upcoming in-person workshops. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and paint well.
Today I'm going to be talking about mixing color, and specifically mixing flesh tones. Now this is a topic that I think is on a lot of people's minds. If you paint an oil paint, you obviously are going to have to deal with color all the time, every moment. And so in all of my videos and all of my content, there's a certain amount of discussion about mixing flesh tones. But I wanted to make a standalone video so you can reference this, you can really see what goes through my mind as I try to mix and match certain colors and sequence colors and relate them within my painting. I think about very specific things whenever I look at my model, my reference, and then when I look at my palette and try to reconstruct those colors successfully, and then maintain those relationships in the painting over the course of that particular painting. And I thought that a video like this could be very useful to some of you that struggle with this part of the process. Now, the important feature of color is that I break it down into three properties: hue, value, and chroma. Now, hue is the attribute of color or the property of color defined by its placement on the visible spectrum. Think red, orange, yellow, green, blue, so on and so forth. Value is the lightness or darkness. You can think about white up here, black down here, and every gradation of value in between, and all colors have some position on that value scale. Then you have chroma, which is essentially the intensity of the color, or you could think of saturation. Technical difference there, but when you think of saturation or the intensity, that is the chroma of the color. And so those are the three properties.
There's one set of oil colors that I use for anything and everything, whether I'm painting Swiss Alps or Greek ruins, red rocks or crashing waves or quiet ponds, or even the occasional still life of a portrait. I'm constantly using the same palette. Today I have my palette box here, and I'm going to walk you guys through each one of these colors, the logic behind my palette, and how I use my palette to be able to paint any color that I see quickly and efficiently. A little bit about the color theory and the choices behind my palette. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of my considerations for these choices. What should you know? What should you look for when choosing oil colors? Last but not least, I'm going to talk about some of the specific relationships and specific reasons I may have chosen these colors over others, and some of my go-to mixtures for most of my paintings, because oftentimes I reach for the same colors over and over again. But without any further ado, let's get into the actual palette. So here, I always have a white. Most of the time that's titanium white. Some of the time that's lead. Don't recommend it if you're a beginner. So let's say titanium white, cadmium yellow light, cadmium yellow medium, cadmium orange, cadmium red, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, viridian, ivory black, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and mud. This is just the scrapings of my palette put off into the little corner. Sometimes it's useful. Can't buy it in the tube. So what is the basic idea behind this palette? Well, the basic idea behind this palette is that it is an extended primary palette. This palette is working on the color theory of the primary colors, how you mix any primary color together. You get your secondary colors or tertiary colors, and you can basically mix any color with one of the three primaries: yellow, red, or blue, traditionally. I have a warm and a cool of each primary: our yellows, our reds, our blues, and then I also have an earth primary. So a yellow ochre is obvious, but then burnt sienna, that serves as an earth red. Ivory black serves as an earth blue. Actually, it's not black, it's blue if you're using it for its color sake. So let me do a little demonstration on how